Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be going over the new poly market forecast in which Donald Trump has now skyrocketed to a staggering 60%, and Kamala Harris is now down below 40% on the chances or likelihood of actually winning the election. She now has a 39.5% chance of winning the election. The numbers keep streaking for her, and Donald Trump keeps increasing. His numbers are skyrocketing on the path to victory. He is now favored to win every single battleground state. All the contested ones at least. I believe 7 out of the 7, or at least 5 of them, because Nevada is actually basically a toss-up. Same thing goes for Wisconsin, even though he still has the lead. I don't know why they consider it a toss-up as of right now. But basically, Kamala Harris is not leading in a single swing state, at least out of the 7 most important ones. Obviously, you can consider Minnesota a battleground state, but it's not really close. You can consider New Hampshire a battleground state, but it's not really a true one. I would say a real battleground state is probably Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, you name it. The key 7 is what we're focusing on today in this video. But before we get started, and we're going to be filling out the map as well according to the poly market odds, make sure you guys are subscribed, click the bell so you don't miss out on my content, press the like button, share this video. Don't forget, if you're interested, we do have memberships. You can find a link to that in the description section. So before we get off to filling out the map, let's take a look quickly at the popular vote chances. So Kamala Harris, as of right now, has a 66% chance of winning the popular vote, around 2/3, and Donald Trump is sitting at a 34% chance, about a third of winning the national popular vote, receiving more votes total. But when it comes to the Electoral College, as you can see right here, Donald Trump is clearly favored in basically every single battleground state besides the one that are toss-up, 50-50 tie for either candidate, Nevada, and Wisconsin. So Kamala Harris is favored to win the popular vote very narrowly, because obviously both Biden and Hillary Clinton in 2016 and in 2020 had way higher chances. They had higher than just a 66% chance of winning the popular vote. I think this is actually one of the worst performances for any Democrat in a long time. Kamala Harris is by far worse than Hillary Clinton. And if she's doing worse than Hillary Clinton in terms of the polls, I can't stress this enough in like most of my videos. I keep saying this over and over again because it's very important. If Kamala Harris is doing worse than someone who lost to Donald Trump originally in terms of the polling data, in 2016, Clinton was performing better than Harris in the polling year, and guess what? She lost Donald Trump. So it makes you think that Kamala Harris is favored on top of Donald Trump to win the election. I just don't see it. And now one other thing before we move on to the electoral map with filling out some of those battleground states according to the poly market odds, which heavily favor Donald Trump. His numbers are absolutely skyrocketing. Let's take a look at the key issues that matters most to voters. On the issue of immigration, let's start with that one. Donald Trump is more trusted than Kamala Harris at 53% to Kamala Harris's 42%. Voters trust Donald Trump more on the issue of the border. Obviously, clearly, during the Biden administration, which Kamala Harris is literally in it as of right now, which Biden actually said Kamala had a lot to do with the policies. So if voters are voting for Kamala because they think she would not be a repeat of Biden 2.0, well, I'm here to tell you that you're going to be wrong, because Kamala also said herself that most of the policies Biden implemented, she had somewhat to do with it as well. So you're not really going to get a change in Kamala Harris. So obviously we had a record number of illegal border crossings under the Biden administration, which Kamala Harris is literally in, as we all know. During Trump's administration, it was at an all-time low. You can say because it was COVID, but even before 2019, it was still at a record low than that. So as for inflation, voters trust Donald Trump more. And the numbers actually may seem closer than you expect. I am using the Center Square, which I do believe overestimates Democratic support. So maybe the numbers can actually be even higher than just what you're seeing right now for Donald Trump. But in terms of inflation, voters trust Trump to fix that more than Kamala Harris at 49%. It's roughly a 4-point difference to Kamala Harris's 45%. In terms of taxes, they trust Donald Trump more. Obviously, he keeps stressing that he will obviously do a lot of tax cuts, especially for people at the top as well as the bottom as well. So it's not just the top. When Kamala Harris says Donald Trump will only cut taxes for the wealthy and not the poor or the middle class, is not true. He's going to do it not only for the wealthy. It is true he will cut taxes for the wealthy, but also for the middle class as well, which Kamala Harris is completely ignoring. And it's basically completely lying at this point. And it's pretty close, actually, neck and neck. It's only a 1 point difference. She's at 46%. Like I mentioned, I am using a left-leaning website, so the numbers probably would be even higher than this in reality. And then as for healthcare, voters trust Kamala Harris more than Donald Trump. This shouldn't really be a surprise. Obviously, Democrats do well in terms of these type of issues like healthcare, obviously a woman's right to choose. She's at 51% to Donald Trump's 41%. And on the issue of gun policy, voters slightly trust Donald Trump more by a 1 point difference, 47% to Kamala Harris's 46%. And Donald Trump has been trying to say that Kamala will take people's guns. She will literally confiscate people's guns, which she has denied personally. She said that she owns a gun herself and she won't take anyone's guns. You can choose to believe whoever you want. I'm not going to tell you who to believe at this point. But obviously Donald Trump, I mean, he did, I believe, ban bumper stocks, I believe. Tell me if I'm right, during his administration. So both these people have done something. And obviously Joe Biden also has passed gun legislation as well. But voters do slightly trust Donald Trump a little bit more. On the issue of a woman's right to choose, obviously heavily in favor of Kamala Harris. This is a no surprise here. 52% to Donald Trump's 39%. Now, when he was in office, obviously he put 3 judges on the Supreme Court, and it overturned Roe v. Wade, and it brought the issues back to the states. He did not sign a national ban, and when he gets into office, he made it clear he won't, even if he can, which he won't, because it's just completely impossible. And obviously, when Kamala Harris gets into office, what she said she would do is restore Roe v. Wade, which Donald Trump has done the opposite in that. And as for education, also not really surprised here. Kamala is favored with 50% to Donald Trump's 42%. And now, obviously, this is a poll, and it asked voters, who they think they trust more in terms of the issues. And then in terms of uniting the country, this was key for Biden in 2020 because we had a lot of BLM social unrest in terms of that aspect, which also gave that key, the social unrest key, in terms of Alan Lichtman, to Joe Biden's benefit. And Biden was key to uniting the country. That's at least what he was supposed to do, was to unite the country. Obviously, there was also COVID and a lot of bad things going on. I mean, in terms of did he actually accomplish a job, I will leave that up to you to decide. But voters trust Kamala slightly more in terms of that. And also, you saw what January 6th did. It definitely did not unite the country on Donald Trump's part. And as for climate change, voters trust Kamala Harris heavily, significantly. Obviously, this is no surprise. 52 to 36% are the differences. In terms of affordable housing, this one kind of shocked me. Voters slightly trust Kamala Harris more by 8 point difference of 50% to Donald Trump's 42%. So that's where we are at. Now, let's go to Polymarket, which is basically the point of today's video. Starting off with the first state, which is toss-up, 50-50 tie for either candidate. They are both tied currently. And Donald Trump breaks the tiebreaker at 51%. Like, if someone were to break the tiebreaker, it would be Donald Trump, because as you can see right here, he is breaking past 50% at 51% in the state of Nevada. So it's going to be tilt for him by a very narrow margin of under percentage point, just a few thousand votes, similar to how both Arizona, Georgia, even Wisconsin was decided by literally like under a percentage point in all 3 of those states. According to Polymarket, it very well can be the same as those 3 states I just mentioned back in 2020. Now, in order for Trump to flip Nevada, I do think it's going to go through Washoe County. I expect him to flip Washoe, which would open up a lot of room to potentially flip this state. And then he's going to have to get heavy turnout in basically the Vegas area, obviously Clark County, among Hispanic voters as well. That would be key to his victory. And then we move on to the next state of Arizona, in which Polymarket currently gives Donald Trump a almost 70% chance of winning this state. This is where his numbers are really skyrocketing. Kamala Harris is all the way down at just a 31% chance, because Biden, as we all know, originally won this state back in the 2020 election by a very narrow margin of just 0.4 percentage points, roughly 11,000 votes. Now, Polly market gives Donald Trump the advantage here by a lean margin. I think Trump is probably going to flip Maricopa County, and let's say even if he doesn't, for example, if Harris only wins Maricopa by 1 point, that's actually not enough for her to win the state. And Trump is making significant gains in terms of the early vote in Navajo County as well. So he should run up the numbers in some of these stronghold Republican counties. And then as for the next state, it's going to be the deep southern state of Georgia, another state Biden had flipped for the first time for any Democrat in a long time, since I believe Bill Clinton, by a margin actually less than Arizona, I believe like 10,000 votes, just 0.2%, mainly because he got high turnout among African-American voters. You obviously had the BLM stuff, a lot of enthusiasm that went against Donald Trump, and you also had a lot of major celebrity endorsements go against Trump. Now this time around, it's the complete opposite. There's no enthusiasm on the Harris side. Now, there has been a record turnout, I believe like 300,000 votes casted on just the first day of early voting. And people say, oh, early voting benefits Democrats. Well, this time around, Donald Trump obviously is trying to push early voting and basically voting however you can, because in recent elections past, specifically 2020, as we all know, Trump did not like early voting. He did not like the mail-in. He praised election day voting only in person. And now he has completely taken a 180 and basically doesn't care how you vote, just vote for him, is what he's trying to say. So Donald Trump is at a 65% chance of winning the state of Georgia, similar to Arizona. That's his lead. Kamala Harris is all the way down at a 36% chance. Now, according to Polymarket betting odds, Kamala Harris has a higher chance of winning Georgia than she does in Arizona. I would partially agree with that because Arizona is a border state, and that's just a losing issue for Kamala Harris. So Georgia will be lean for Donald Trump, according to Polymarket. And the odds in North Carolina are basically the same as Georgia. It's going to be lean for Donald Trump. They give him roughly a 64% chance of winning North Carolina to Kamala Harris's 36%. So that will be lean for the former president. Now, regards to how the voting is going to go, obviously they had a hurricane in the state of North Carolina, just like Florida, so I'm not sure how that's going to impact the race, maybe in favor of Harris, because the hurricane probably hit most rural parts more than any urban parts, which is heavily Republican, obviously. So maybe that can actually hurt Donald Trump. But still, I don't think that's going to matter, as Polymarket literally has Donald Trump skyrocketing in terms of the numbers in the state of North Carolina. She only has a 37% chance of winning this state. And as for the next swing state, we're moving on towards the Rust Belt before we end off this video, starting off with Wisconsin. Just like Nevada, they rank it as a toss-up, basically a tie for either candidate, but Donald Trump has a 55% chance to Kamala Harris's 45%, a 10-point difference with the state's 10 electoral votes. So he is favored by a tilt margin to flip the state of Wisconsin. Biden only won it by 20,000 votes, a margin of 0.6%, which is actually less than Trump's victory in 2016. Now, believe it or not, Wisconsin was actually the reddest Rust Belt state, not only in 2020, but also in 2016 as well. And most of the Obama era as well voted to the right of both Pennsylvania and Michigan as well. So a lot of the polls in 538 and RCP are suggesting that all of a sudden Wisconsin's going to be more blue than Pennsylvania this time around, and even Michigan as well, which in recent elections past, historically, it should not be that way, which is why I think the polls might be just utter garbage. And then as for Michigan, keep in mind there was a large uncommitted vote share in the Democratic primaries. 100,000 people voted uncommitted against Joe Biden. I think Trump can do better in Dearborn County, and also a Democratic mayor in the state of Michigan actually endorsed Donald Trump. Not an independent, but a Democrat, which goes to show you that maybe they don't have the enthusiasm as they once did in the Rust Belt. So Donald Trump is given a 56% chance of winning Michigan to Kamala Harris's 45%. So that will also go to Donald Trump's column. And then we have the last and final state, which is going to be the tipping point state, as we all know, the deciding factor, which could decide who wins this election. Basically, whoever wins Pennsylvania, winner takes all at this point, surpassing 270 electoral votes, giving them the key to the White House, basically the key to the presidency. So let's take a look at Pennsylvania. Donald Trump is favored. They are suggesting that's going to vote to the right of Wisconsin and Michigan this time around, which is kind of surprising because usually Pennsylvania actually votes to the left of Wisconsin. But in 2020, Pennsylvania went to Biden by 1.2%. And keep in mind, people were saying it was his home state. So imagine Kamala Harris literally has no like recognition in Pennsylvania whatsoever, I think Trump is very favored to win this state. Also, he got shot here in Butler County, which is right next door to Centre County. A lot of these key counties, by the way, Pittsburgh as well, and Erie County, like Butler County is right in the middle of all those three counties I just mentioned. So let's just say if Trump does get a high turnout in Pittsburgh, some of these stronghold Democratic counties like Philadelphia as well, he's going to flip Northampton County. It only went to Biden by like 0.7%. He's on track to win this state. He's cracking nearly 60% chance of winning this state according to the odds on Polymarket. It is absolutely skyrocketing. It is increasing. It won't stop here as we get closer to Election Day. Kamala Harris' chances would absolutely cripple. She has only a 41% chance of winning the blue wall state of Pennsylvania. These three blue wall states are supposed to favor Democrats, and the fact that it's not is not good news for Kamala Harris. So he will take the state's 19 electoral votes. So that's that. 312 electoral votes for Donald Trump. He's getting more electoral votes than he did in 2016 of literally over 300. To Kamala Harris is 226, performing worse than Hillary Clinton, which I won't be shocked because in terms of polling, she is indeed polling worse than Hillary Clinton. So I think 312 for Donald Trump is looking like a possible realistic scenario. So that's the Polymarket forecast for you guys. Let me know what states you agree with or disagree with in the comment section down below. One last final reminder is to subscribe, click the bell so you don't miss out my content, press the like button, share this video. Don't forget, we do have memberships. If you are interested, you can find a link to that in the description section. Thank you everyone for watching.